All right, folks, let's talk about Islamic teachings on sex. So first, we're going to talk about Islam's unique perspective on issues of sex. Then we're going to talk about the Prophet Muhammad on marriage, Islamic teachings on sex, and then we'll draw some conclusions at the end. So to begin, Islam has a rather unique perspective on sexual ethics in comparison to Judaism, Christianity, and Buddhism. Why? Because the Prophet Muhammad is the only religious figure in this course of whom we have intimate knowledge of his married life. And in the Hadith in particular, the Prophet Muhammad speaks openly about what constitutes a healthy sexual relationship between men and women within the context of marriage. So what was the Prophet Muhammad's married life like? So as we discussed in our Islamic ethics presentation earlier in the course, from age 25 to 50, the Prophet Muhammad was in a monogamous married relationship with Khadija bint Khuwaylid. However, after Khadija's death, the Prophet Muhammad, as governor of Medina, had multiple wives. And according to 9th century Islamic biographer Ibn Hisham, the Prophet Muhammad had 12 wives, whom he married gradually from age 52 to 62. And the names of the Prophet's wives are collectively given the title the mothers of the believers. And there are two wives who are probably the most famous, Aisha bint Abi Bakr and Hind bint Abi Umayyah. So why did the Prophet Muhammad have multiple wives? Well, the general explanation is that as the governor of Medina, he had to secure alliances with other cities and also with tribes within the city itself. So in order to do that, he had to secure wives in order to make those allegiances possible. So again, one of the ways in which cities would ally with each other is if they were offered a wife. So in this case, the main explanation is that the Prophet Muhammad had multiple wives in order to secure political alliances. So with this in mind, as a married man, the Prophet Muhammad viewed marriage as the highest Muslim institution. And because of this, he denounced celibacy. There's even a story of soldiers under Muhammad who wanted to become celibate so that they could completely dedicate themselves to the Prophet. But he refused and basically had them married on the spot. So he felt that strongly about it. And what is interesting is that in the Hadith, he actually gives what we might call sex advice to his followers in Medina. And of course, we're going to get a bit of a look at that momentarily. So before we delve into these teachings, there are some words in Arabic that we should know. The terms halal, haram, and zina. So halal refers to practices which are permissible for Muslims. So there are certain sex practices which are considered to be halal. Haram, on the other hand, refers to practices that are not permissible for Muslims, and it literally means forbidden. And one form of haram is zina, or adultery, which is, again, a forbidden sexual practice in Islam. So we're going to play kind of like a little game here called halal or haram. And I want for us to kind of guess as to what the Islamic teachings are with respect to certain sexual practices. So premarital sex in the Islamic tradition, is it halal or haram? So I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, so what's the answer? Well, premarital sex in the Islamic tradition is haram. So here are a couple of selections from the Quran to back that up. To the woman and the man guilty of illegal sexual relationship, flog each of them with 100 stripes. Let not compassion withhold you in their case in a matter of punishment prescribed by Allah. If you believe in Allah and the last day, and let a party of the believers witness their punishment. So having an illegal sexual relationship that is premarital sex is punishable by flogging. And as it says in Surah 17, and do not come near to adultery, it is a shameful deed and an evil, and opening the road to other evils. So what is the halal relationship? Well, again, it is sex within the institution of marriage. So as is written in this hadith Muslim, number 1674, when one of you has sex with your wife, it is a rewarded act of charity. The companions were surprised and said, but we do it purely out of desire. How can it be counted as charity? The Prophet replied, if you had done it with a forbidden woman, it would have been counted as a sin. But if you do it in legitimacy, it is counted as charity. So in this regard, sex with your wife is considered to be a holy thing in the Islamic tradition. All right, so how about foreplay? Is this a halal practice or a haram practice in Islam? Well, in Islam, foreplay is considered to be halal. So from the hadith, once again, the messenger of Allah, meaning the Prophet Muhammad, is reported to have said, not one of you should fulfill one's sexual need by falling upon his wife like an animal, but let there first be a messenger between you. And what is that messenger, they asked. And he replied, kisses and words. And once again, the messenger of Allah forbade from engaging in sexual intercourse before foreplay. So again, sex without foreplay is forbidden, according to the hadith. Now, what about anal sex? Is this halal or haram? Well, there's actually some disagreement on this because in the Quran, the Prophet says, your wives are your fields, so go into your fields whichever way you like. So one possible interpretation is that anal sex is actually halal because of this Quranic verse that men can go into their wives however or whichever way they like. But in the hadith, however, it is strictly forbidden. So it says here, the messenger of Allah said, Allah is not too shy to tell you the truth. Do not have sex with your wives in the anus. Now, what about oral sex? Is this halal or haram in the Islamic tradition? Well, this is actually open to debate. Okay, why? Well, you might recall that in the hadith, the Prophet Muhammad encourages his male followers to engage in foreplay, which requires kissing. So one question that is debated among Islamic scholars is, well, what is a kiss exactly? Does it mean kisses on the mouth? Does it include kisses on the body? Whether oral sex is halal or not depends upon how one defines what a kiss is. But there is one teaching from the hadith from Imam Musa al-Kazim, and it says here that the Imam was once asked, can a person kiss his wife's vagina? And the Imam said, no problem. So here are some conclusions for us to draw upon. So one, Islamic sacred texts provide a unique perspective into religious sexual ethics because again, the Prophet Muhammad is the only prophet, in this course with whom we have kind of intimate knowledge of his married life. And two, unlike Buddhism and Christianity, celibacy is forbidden in the Quran and the Hadith. Premarital sex, as we saw, is also strictly forbidden according to the Quran. And in the Hadith, rather intimate sex advice is given to Muslim men where they are encouraged to engage in practices like foreplay with their wives. So again, from my point of view, a very interesting collection of teachings from the Islamic tradition on sex.